section, we're going to talk about tracing an image using the Image Trace panel. This replaces Live Trace in previous versions of Illustrator. With Image Trace, you can turn a raster image into a vector. You can change the size, edit, and manipulate a vector image without losing quality. The first thing we're going to do is open an image, then open the Image Trace panel. If you don't see it in your panels on the right, go to Windows, Image Trace Panel. It looks like this. At the top of the panel, you have options for how you want to view your vector image. Now we can click any of these options to see our vector. Let's click Black and White. Remember, you can mouse over to see the name of each button. If we click Black and White, this is what our image looks like. If we click Auto Color, here's our image. Here's the image in high color. Now low color, and now grayscale. And lastly is outline. You want to pick the option that traces your object the best, or the way you want it to look. We are going to choose high color. Now we can click View, and this drop-down menu will appear. We can view the tracing result with outlines, which will look like this. We can also view just the outlines with the source image, or just the source image. The outline is the paths that were used to create the design. Let's look at the dialog box again to see what else we can do with our new vector image. We can also change the color mode. There is color, black and white, and grayscale. You can also change the palette and add more or less color to make your vector image look more like your original. Click the eye to toggle between the vector and the original as you try to make them match. With our image, we adjusted the slider for less color to make the two images become a closer match. Remember, this is what our original image looks like. And now here's our traced image. The color is a little less bright, but the detail is there, which is what we wanted. Now up above your document, you'll see an Expand button. Click this to see all that you'll need to edit your design. Throughout the rest of this course, you'll learn the tools and features that you can use to edit your vector designs and images. To move a shape, the first thing you must do is select it. We're going to use the Direct Selection tool and select a foot from our little bear. To move the shape, click on the center. There's a point in the center to make it easy. Now drag the shape to the location where you want it. When we drag the shape, we see the outline of it. When we release the mouse button, the shape has been moved. If you want to move the shape back to its original position, go to Edit, Undo. You can use Undo in Illustrator to undo any action or task, not just moving shapes. To copy a shape, select it just as we did above. Go to Edit, Copy, then Edit, Paste. You can now use the center point to move the shape wherever you want. Let's say you want to align objects in a document. If you're creating a business card, you might want to align the logo with the symbol for the Better Business Bureau, or something like that. Here's how you would do it. Go to the Align panel by going to Windows, Align. The options in this panel will allow you to align or distribute objects along an axis that you get to specify. You can use object edges or anchor points as the reference point. Also, you can align to a selection, artboard, or key object. A key object is one object in a selection of objects. To align or distribute relative to the bounding box of the selected object, select the objects that you want to align or distribute. Then go to the panel. Your options for aligning the objects are at the top. The options for distributing them are at the bottom. Select the objects you want to align. Remember to use the right selection tool to make your job easier. For our objects, we're going to use the magic wand. Now align the objects. We are going to choose Align Center. Remember, the objects will be aligned by the bounding box. Now let's show you what Distribute does. When you distribute objects, you space them evenly apart. Let's say we want to add stars to the box below. We've created the stars and they're off to the side. First, we're going to select them. Now we can choose how we want to distribute them. We can choose from Vertical Distribute Top, Vertical Distribute Center, and Vertical Distribute Bottom. Let's click Vertical Distribute Top. They are evenly distributed from the top. Our second star was moved down a little. You can play around with these options and see which is going to work best for aligning your objects, especially if the objects are different sizes. Here we have a box. Then off to the side we have some stars. Let's say we want to align the stars to the box. To do this, we have to align by key points. We already have our stars selected. Now we're going to hold down Shift and then click our box. If we click any of the Align buttons right now, it's simply going to move the box and stars together. But let's say we want the box to stay right where it is and align the stars inside the box. All you have to do is click on the box. The line around it now becomes a thick blue line. This is the object where the other objects will be aligned. It is your key object. Now choose an Align option. We're going to choose Horizontal Align Center. The stars are now aligned with our key object, which is the box. Here we have some stars. Right now they are all individual objects. If we use the selection tool, we can click on any one of them to select it. But we only select one, and we can move them one at a time. But what if, after aligning and distributing them, you want to keep them at the spacing and alignment that you currently have? To make that simpler to understand, what if you want to move all 3 stars around your document at the same time, making sure that they keep their same spacing and alignment? To do this, you have to group your objects. When you group objects, you can move them around your artboard as if they're one object. Here's how you do it. Using the selection tool, select the objects that you want to group. Now go to Object, Group. These objects are now grouped together and can be moved around as if they were one object. When you lock an object, it cannot be selected or moved. Below, we've selected a circle. Now we go to Object, Lock, Selection. That circle can no longer be selected or moved. We have 2 other options to choose from when we go to Object Lock. We can lock all artwork above or lock other layers. If you want to lock objects that overlap the area where the selected object is located and that are in the same layer, click All Artwork Above. If you want to lock all layers but not the layers that contain the selected object, select Other Layers. To unlock all objects, go to Object, Unlock All. Transforming shapes in Illustrator is easy, and it can also be fun. Here we have a shape. If we want to transform or change the shape, we're going to go to the free Transform tool. You must first have the shape selected, then click on the free Transform tool. Once you've done that, you'll see a bounding box around your shape. Click on one of the corners of the bounding box, which are the little squares, and hold your mouse button down. Now click on the Command key for Mac and the Control key for Windows. Make sure you click on the corner first. Hold your mouse button down and then click the Command or Control key. You can now drag to transform your shape. The Shape Builder tool allows you to merge and erase simple objects to create complex ones. It does this by selecting edges and regions of an object, then merging or erasing them to create a new object. Edges are sections of a path that don't intersect with paths of other selected objects. A region is a closed area. Here we have the head of a teddy bear. We're going to use the Shape Builder tool to merge the ears with the head. Use the Selection tool to select the paths that you want to merge. Hold down the Shift key to select more than one path. Now click the Shape Builder tool in the toolbox. To extract a region from its shape, click on the region. This is what happens. We'll learn how to use the Path Eraser tool later in this course that will get rid of the path that's still showing. If you want to merge paths, drag along the region. If you want to erase paths, press Alt. Then click the closed region or edge you want to delete. Envelopes are simply objects you use to reshape other objects. However, they can't reshape graphs, guides, or linked objects. Once you apply an envelope, you can edit the object or the envelope, which are the anchor points, separately using the Selection tool and the Mesh tools in the toolbox. Here's the Mesh tool. Let's learn how to distort an object with an envelope. Here we've drawn a rectangle. Click on the Selection tool in the toolbox. Now we're going to select our rectangle so we can reshape it. Go to Object, Envelope, Distort. Then choose one of the following. Make with Warp uses a warp shape to distort the object. Make with Mesh uses a rectangle grid. Make with Top Object will use an object as the shape of the envelope. The object has to be at the top of the stacking order. Now choose the options for the envelope type. We're going to choose Make with Warp. We can select the style of warp. Click the drop-down arrow for your choices. We're choosing Bulge. Now select if you want the bulge to be horizontal or vertical. Next, choose the amount of distortion you want applied to the shape by moving the sliders to the right for greater distortion. If you want to preview your shape, put a check in the preview box. Otherwise, push OK when you're finished. Our shape has now been distorted. Now you can reshape it using the Mesh tool. Just drag on any of the anchor points. You can also delete anchor points. For a mesh grid, use the Mesh tool, then select an anchor point and press Delete. Notice that one of the blue lines has been deleted. You can also add anchor points. Select the Mesh tool, then click where you want to add the anchor point. Notice that we have two blue lines again. You can also set options for envelope. Go to Object, Envelope Distort, then click Envelope Options. Check Anti-Alias to smooth rasterized images after they're distorted using an envelope. Under Preserve Shape Using, it tells Illustrator how to preserve rasterized image shapes when distorted with non-rectangular envelopes. Drag the Fidelity slider to specify how you want to fit the envelope mold. Distort Appearance distorts appearance attributes with the object's shape. Distort Linear Gradient Fills allows you to distort linear gradients along with the object's shape. We'll learn about gradients later in this course. Distort Pattern Fills distorts pattern fills with the object's shape. Pattern fills will be taught in a later lesson too. Check Preview to preview your changes. This is the best way to learn what the different options will do to your object. Click OK when you're finished. With the Perspective Grid tool, you can use a perspective grid to draw objects with a 1, 2, or 3-point perspective. This means you can draw a street full of houses with the correct perspective. The viewing angle can be changed, and you can use widgets to control horizon height, vanishing points, ground level, and the origin. The depth and height of an object can be matched using the Move Plane to Match Object command. This adjusts the grid, and you can draw another object on it. The Perspective Grid tool is located in the toolbox. If you click on it, this is what appears in your document. If the grid doesn't appear, go to View, Perspective Grid, then Show Grid. You can also select a Perspective Grid preset. Go to View, Perspective Grid, then select a point perspective, 1, 2, or 3. Then choose a preset. Now to draw an object on the grid, you can do any one of the following things. Select a line tool or rectangle tool to draw on the grid. If you want to attach normal objects to the grid, select the plane on the grid that you want to use. Then select the object. Go to Object, Perspective, then Attach to the active plane. If you want to unattach an object, go to Object, Perspective, then Release with Perspective. You can also move the plane to match objects. Select the object, then go to Object, Perspective, then Move Plane to Match Object. Note: remember to use your Selection tool to select objects. Let's draw a rectangle on the selected plane. Now let's draw another rectangle for the other plane. First select the plane in the cube, then draw the rectangle on the matching plane in your document area. You can also drag on the grid to adjust the following things. Ground level moves the grid. Vanishing points adjust perspective in or out. Horizon height adjusts the horizon line. Extend the grid either extends or shortens the perspective grid. Grid plane controls adjust the right, horizontal, or left. Grid cell size will either increase or decrease the grid cell size. An origin adjusts the x and y coordinates of the grid plane. To set perspective grid options, go to View, Perspective Grid, then select an option from the menu. Hide Grid will hide the grid and just leave your drawing. Show rulers or hide rulers shows or hides the rulers on the height line. Snap to grid snaps an object to the grid lines. Unlock or lock grid does just as it says. It locks or unlocks the grid. Lock station point means when you move on the vanishing point, the other will move automatically and in sync. You can create your own grid in Illustrator, then use it later by saving it as a preset. Here's how you do it. Double-click on the Perspective Grid tool. Select your options. The widget is your plane cube. Click OK. You can also customize a grid, then save it as a preset. To do this, create your grid, then go to View, Perspective Grid, Save Grid as Preset. Enter a name for the grid. Choose the settings you want as well as the color and opacity settings. Click OK when you're finished. If you want to edit a preset, go to Edit, Perspective Grid Presets. Choose a preset, click Edit, and click OK when you're finished making changes.